Hello, Chem here. Welcome back to another SSF build overview. In Mirage League, we've finally seen a shift away from the energy shield meta, and as I've never played a life stacker before, I wanted to set the challenge of putting something together in solo self-found. So after testing some different skills, I've decided to settle on Shock Nova of Procession. This skill has some pretty crazy scaling potential, and ultimately I want to push this build to clear all content, including Ubers, which honestly it's not too far away from doing right now. I'll go over some pros and cons of the build now. So pros, insane regen, so around 5k life and ES per second, and obviously as you scale more life and ES this number's only going to go up. Strong all-rounder, can do all content. Once you get greater spell echo, the clear feels much nicer. Satisfying progression curve, because it's a stacking build, add more life, numbers go up, just feels good. It's a flexible shell, so you can play multiple skills with the same tree. So if you'd like to mix it up a bit, I've played quite a bit of Arc of Oscillating as well, which has better clear than Shock Nova, but personally I think Shock Nova's just better all round. And I've got my other build that I done on my last video, which was Arc of Oscillating Minion Pact, and the clear is just superior on that version, so I figured I'd stick with Arc on that build instead. So the cons, positioning can be a bit awkward at times, because you want to get some overlaps with the Shock Nova rings, and that does require a bit of positioning and getting used to it. But not too bad of a downside. High-end upgrades, such as heist rares, can take a lot of time or be very expensive to scale to the next level. And then the clear isn't S tier by any means, but greater spell echo really helps with this, as it has increased AoE per repeat. Okay, so fundamentals of the build then. It's a life stacking build that revolves mainly around two unique items and Energy Blade. The first one is the Foulborn Ghost Rife, which has a Foulborn modifier which sets your maximum energy shield to 40% of your maximum life. This modifier can be scaled higher via Volatile Val Orb Corrupt or tailoring orbs through Heist to get over 50% when min-maxed. Energy Blade takes your energy shield value to give you flat lightning damage, and there's also a downside, normally, of 50% less maximum energy shield. Because of the wording on the Ghost Rife, on the Foulborn mod, your total ES is locked in place, meaning this downside doesn't apply, which is obviously a huge upside to survivability. Once we stack life, combine the Rathpith Globe, which scales both spell damage and spell crit per 100 maximum life. This, alongside stacking max life, life regen, and strength, is the core of the build. In terms of Ascendancy, we'll go for the Inquisitor for a few different reasons. First lab, we'll go for Instruments of Virtue because of the Battle Mage line, which gives added spell damage equal to the damage of your main hand weapon. This has direct synergy with Energy Blade, as we get a load of flat lightning damage on our weapon using this. For second and third lab, we pick up Sanctuary and Pious Path, which gives us permanent life and ES regen, and makes up the main bulk of our defences alongside block chance. As long as we aren't getting one shot, this recovery feels extremely strong and allows us to face tank most mechanics in the game, such as Exarch Ball Phase, Shaper Beams, and those annoying purple balls in that one phase of the Shaper fight as well. Fourth lab, we finish off by picking up Righteous Providence, which helps us scale crit that bit further. If you manage to pick up a good Black Barrier belt, you can opt for the Nameless Bloodline to get an extra ring slot, as you can't use utility flasks anyway with that belt. Because I'm going to be using a Mage Blood though, Righteous Providence just makes the most sense. Okay, so moving over to POB then to look at the skills now. So in the main links, I think the ideal setup is to have Shock Nova of Procession corrupted with increased critical strikes, but unfortunately I missed the corrupt and hit efficacy. But in terms of the other supports, I go with increased critical damage, intensify, spellblade, and greater spell echo. Greater spell echo is best in slot for the build as it gives an additional repeat and it gives additional AoE per repeat. If you don't have the greater version, I personally wouldn't go with intensify as a support, as the AoE is just too small with this on. But yeah, obviously, if you don't have greater spell echo, still use the regular one. The 6th slot I go for is lightning penetration. If I'm focusing on mapping, I actually swap out intensify for arcane surge to help with the clear, because like I said, intensify just has this line on it where it says less AoE per intensity, which can be a bit annoying for mapping. Just a note though, if you do use Arcane Surge, you'll need a source of Arcane Surge to use the support, because we don't spend any mana, we just spend life. And you know, there's a line on here that says gain Arcane Surge after spending the total mana. So that only works. I've got a synthesized ring that has Arcane Surge on hit with spells. That's one way of getting it. But the other way, which is more common and probably better long term, is on a Watcher's Eye. There's a mod where, while affected by Zealotry, you get Arcane Surge. So that's probably the best approach. Auras on the build, I use Wrath with Eternal Blessing, so it reserves no life. I then reserve Tempest Shield and Petrified Blood on my life. Energy Blade, main source of our DPS, and then because of our insane life regen, I also use Righteous Fire for the more spell damage buff that it gives. So yeah, we're getting 39% more spell damage, which is quite a lot. And I also have my fire res at 90% to negate the downside as much as possible from Righteous Fire. 4-link Spectre setup. I should probably quality these gems. I don't know why they're not 20. So currently I'm using 2 Spectres on the build. I'm using the Perfect Pain Artist for the Zealotry aura, but ideally we want to have a Perfect Spirit of Fortune because this gives us the Wrath aura and also Lucky Lightning damage, and these two together give us about 50% more damage. So then what I would do if I had that Spectre would swap Wrath for Zealotry. So that's the more efficient setup, and obviously I've got that SSF limitations, unfortunately, so I'm trying to farm that Spectre at the minute. Second Spectre, we can go for something like a Perfect Guardian Turtle for extra survivability, or a Perfect Forest Tiger for the haste aura. But right now I've got a Perfect Primal Thunderbird, which gives us lightning exposure and grace. We use automation and convocation to help keep our Spectres alive. Shield charge and faster attacks is what I use mainly for movement, but I also use flame dash where shield charge doesn't work. Conductivity is the curse I'm using, and then Immortal Call linked to cast when damage taken for a little bit of extra survivability. Okay, let's go over my current gear set now then. So because we're using Energy Blade, we've just got a Energy Blade one-handed sword. You can craft a rare with an Abyssal Socket on it and drop one of the supports, but right now I haven't done that just because I haven't found a fossil in Delve yet. I've just started farming it, so hopefully I can get that soon. Shield, Wrathpith Globe, this is mandatory. It's just a really good way to scale the damage on the build. Obviously because we're a life stacker, we get a lot of value out of those bottom 2 mods there. Rare Helmet, it's good to just try and get as much life and life regen and then whatever reses you need really. And for Eldritch Implicits I go for Fizz taken as fire because we've got 90 fire res, and then cast speed. Foulborn Ghost Riff, another mandatory piece for the build. This can be scaled higher with a Volatile Val Orb or a Tailoring Orb from Heist, or both ideally, but yeah, what I'll probably do to start with is try and get one with just like a Tailoring Orb mod for increased defenses, which I think puts it to 43%, and then I can try gambling for a higher with Volatile Valorb if I can farm a few more bases. Gloves, more or less the same story as the helmet, just good max life and life regen. And then I've actually crafted on the AoE and area damage, which is nice. Eldritch Implicits, I've got lightning damage leeches life and chance to unnerve. You can drop one of these for lightning exposure as well. I think it's the lightning damage leeches life that you would drop. But because I'm using a Spectre that gives lightning exposure, I'm not using that. Boots, again, just good max life, life regen, movement speed, and I've got a res crafted on. And then you want to go with life regen and action speed as the Eldritch Implicits here. Now the amulet, I'm using Defiance of Destiny purely because I dropped it, and it's T0, and it makes the build really tanky. But honestly, I don't think this is the best option. If you go for a well-crafted rare with like T1 life, crit multi, good strength and stuff like that, you're probably going to get about 20% more damage out of it than this amulet. But you know, I like the tankiness. I'm kind of lazy, so I haven't crafted a good rare yet. I've actually anointed Testudo on it, which gives us attack block cap, but I think the better anoint, honestly, would be Golem's Blood, which gives us more survivability, more damage as well. Yeah, I think that's the best outcome. But I was going to craft a good amulet and save the 2 gold oils to do that. So for now, I've just got Testudo, which is quite a cheap anoint. The ring, Arcane Surge on hit. Synth ring, which is really nice. You can go for like a Vermilion or Amethyst ring as a base, but yeah, these are the sort of rolls you want to aim for, like max life, reses, strength. Yeah, that's pretty good. Then I'm using this Reflected Mist ring that I found that just has 200 life. Had to overcome the res downside a bit, but wasn't too bad because we got the Mage Blood, which, you know, pretty standard. Foulball Mage Blood. So I actually farmed one of the cards from it that fled, gambled it up to 7, and then farmed the last one. So that was a bit of a result. For flasks, I go with Rumi's Concoction as the only flask that we've got, or the only non-utility flask. And then I run these 4 magic utility flasks. So we've got the Ruby, Topaz, Sapphire setup for all the elemental resistances. I have this 15% of damage taken from hits as Leech's Life craft on one of them, Ellie Res on another, Crit Strike on this one, and then on the Silver Flask I have Regenerate 3% of life during effect. And then Jewels on the build. This just gets me to 90 max fire res, and then max life, crit multi. This one's just got max life, area damage, cast speed, lightning damage. And then this one's got life and crit multi. So yeah, ideally I'd probably want 2 crit multi with max life. So yeah, obviously we'll upgrade those over time. Okay, so moving on to the passive tree now. I've actually got different loadouts for different stages of the character progression. So level 74 is when I started playing the build, and then we've got, I would say level 90 is when the build feels like pretty solid to blast endgame on. And then this is my current character, which is sitting at just shy of 20 mil DPS, which is pretty comfy for most content. Now, there is an opportunity to go with a cluster duel setup down here, but for now I've gone with no clusters. So what I would do is, if I was going for a cluster duel setup down here, I'd probably spec out of this section of the tree. But honestly, it didn't seem like too much more damage or anything, so for now I'm not running a cluster setup. But yep, we're on a path over here. Obviously you get this 30% more spell damage, and then really we're just picking up life and crit wherever we can. I've got some block down here as well. I find this quite a handy thing to spec into just for corrupted blood immunity. Obviously if you can get a good duel with it, that's also an option, but Obviously this made it easier to hit 90% max fire res as well, to offset the downside of Righteous Fire. Blood Magic, very important keystone on the build. Obviously gives us 10% more max life, and skills cost life into the mana, but because of how much regen we've got, it really isn't noticeable at all. I've actually also gone for this Rune Graft of Treachery, which makes it so instead of having 40% unreserved life, this gets us to 47, which again just helps our max hits out and our effective hit pool. Just a note on this effective hit pool, actually, this is kind of very juiced up by the Defiance of Destiny, so it's a little bit of POB warrior stats, but you know, it's still insanely tanky, so I don't feel too bad having it like that. I've got an aspirational loadout as well, and I haven't done too much work with this. It's only level 96, so I should probably put a few more points in somewhere. I'd probably come up here, pick up this jewel if I was at level 99. And then the two main things on this build, which I'm yet to farm, is the Foulborn Red Dream, which has, and you need to have that Foulborn line on the bottom there. And then what you do is you tattoo these strength nodes to give fire res, because then that applies to max life at 50%. So essentially all of these spots are giving you 3% max life, which is really nice. And then I've got the Foulborn Blue Nightmare up here, which converts some of our lightning damage into chaos. So then you tattoo a few of these nodes to give us lightning res. And then what you do is, in combination with this support, Unholy Trinity, you see this gives us an insane amount of DPS. This is, I'd say, probably one of the most slept on supports in the whole league right now. So yeah, we just all you really need to do is convert a little bit of the damage, and then you should be at max resonance pretty comfortably. In terms of an aspirational setup as well, I've put in a aspirational SSF target, which puts us about 76 mil DPS. I haven't gone too crazy on this, honestly, so you know, like I showed earlier, I've just got the Foulborn jewels, no clusters. Again, drop in this section, going into a cluster setup with two well-rolled jewels is probably gonna come out ahead of what I've got here. But you know, for now, I think this does the job as a target. The only real difference I've got here, I haven't upgraded these rares, but I've upgraded the amulet and rings. So ideally, you want to go for something like a helical ring, or maybe a manifold one, which is like the prefix version. Basically, the one that has like 50% increased modifiers on it. And then a simplex or a focused amulet. Again, just going for a max life, crit multi, especially, and then you know, cast speed if you can. Yeah, and then pretty much the same elsewhere. I've got a Watcher's Eye in here that gives Arcane Surge because I'm dropping the synth ring. But yeah, I might do a future video when, you know, if I do an update video in the future. This might be fleshed out a little bit more, and I might give some kind of trade POBs as well, because I know you can go for like Arcane Blessing, Forbidden Jewels in trade, which is a really strong way to get Arcane Surge and 20% more damage. But yeah, I'll address that in the future. In terms of leveling, I've just gone with Captain Lance's Energy Blade Inquisitor leveling, so there's quite a lot of detail here. I more or less just followed this until my level 74 tree that I've got in the POB, and was mainly using just Firestorm and Armageddon Brand. Got us through the campaign pretty comfortably, so I'll recommend that as a leveling method. So what is next then to improve the build? I'll carry on farming Ritual to try and get the perfect Spirit Fortune Spectre and swap in my main damage aura to Zealotry. And then once I'm using Zealotry, I've got a increased damage while affected by Zealotry Watcher's Eye. I'll probably stick this in the build, or if I can farm a better one, especially one with Arcane Surge. I could drop the Synth Ring for something slightly better. I need to get into Delve to farm an Abyss fossil for the weapon, but maybe even get a few more to try and fracture an Abyssal Socket onto some rare pieces, and then recraft those. Keep blasting Breach to try and get the Foulborn red and blue Nightmare Jewels used in the Aspirational setup. Farm Unholy Trinity from the Abomination Nightmare map boss, and then look into the best cluster jewel approaches and how to respec the tree to maximise this. If you like the content, subscribing to the channel would be massively appreciated, and I'll try to continue to improve the level as time goes on. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.